fault. I got divorced at age 35 after 2.5 years trying to make the best of something that just wasn't meant to be. It was the most painful and the most powerful move I've made, domestically speaking, and it remains one of the boldest things I think I've done still. I had a comfortable life. I wanted kids. My clock was ticking. But leaving the wrong marriage saved my sanity and gave me back my life. Around the same time, someone named Jennifer Aniston, has anybody heard of her? No, anyway, she's a celebrity. Got dumped by Brad Pitt, and she was also 35. But I digress. Jen got dumped, I left. And for me, leaving was a way to restore my sense of self. I had married into a dream. He was 7 years my senior, a tenured professor. He took me around the world during the year of our courtship on all these academic jaunts. I was a graduate student, a doctoral student, and then a postdoc, and my funding came from his. So the power discrepancy in our external status in the outside world had its way of affecting my sense of power within the relationship and in my head. It's ironic, maybe, that I, a daughter of feminism, had married a son of feminists who believed in me, and still I struggled with these internal demons that told me that my work somehow didn't count in the world like his did unless I knocked it out of the park. And for me, at that time, that meant landing a hotshot New York City literary agent, writing a bestseller, appearing on Oprah, which I never did. I had a somewhat skewed idea of success. Next slide, please. But when I left the marriage, I wrote the book. This was the book, Sisterhood Interrupted, From Radical Women to Girls Gone Wild, and no, that's not a typo, in girls it's supposed to be that way. The book was about the fights and frenzies around feminism in America over the past 40 years. And while it didn't land me on Oprah, it landed me with the Wiggles, which is what we call ourselves, to ourselves, and sometimes in public, women, girls, and ladies. Which has had to have been, I have to say, and continues to be one of the most generative, generous, and blatantly intergenerational instances of sharing power that I've experienced yet professionally so far. Next slide, please. We are all authors, and as authors these days have to be, we are also authorpreneurs. So that means we speak and we talk and we sell our books, right? But as people who do what we do, our contacts and our ideas are our power. They're our capital. And we share them all. I think, we speak about ourselves, but it's the collective that makes us who we are. And I truly feel that this collaboration at a moment, when there are fewer and fewer speaking opportunities, and people are kind of holding, their contacts and ideas close, that this kind of collaboration can sometimes feel rare. So I'm very grateful for it. That even in an economy of scarcity, as we've seen, with universities pinching their budgets during these recession years, still, when you're willing to kind of share the stage, the psychology of abundance can prevail. And speaking of psychology, I want to kind of take you back home, talk a little bit about the question of shared power at home. The next slide. This is my perma husband and our now 11-month-old twins. That's Teo and that's Anya. We have a boy and a girl. And this is the first time I've been away from them, actually. And I'm doing great. We have been sharing the load, my husband and I, of caring for these babies since the day they were born. And it's been a struggle, and it's also been my ideal. Again, I've married into a dream, but this time it's real. it's real complicated. Sharing the childcare and sharing the breadwinning with my mate has been at times blissful, at times messy, and often fraught. Are our lives balanced? More so, I think, than many couples I know. But we're also living more simply, and we have precious little time for ourselves. Do we have parity in our relationship? Yes. And that's something that's very important to me, to have more gender equality in my domestic relationship than my parents did, and to provide a kind of model for our twins of what gender equality can look like, at least at home. Generationally, it seems, my partner and I are in step. In fact, we may even be ahead of the curve. I don't know if anybody saw this cover of this week's Newsweek. The headline says, "Man up, the traditional male is an endangered species. It's time to rethink masculinity." And then on the inside, a big spread on men's lib. And it says, "To survive in a hostile world, guys need to embrace girly jobs and dirty diapers. Why it's time to reimagine masculinity at work and at home." I read some of this to my husband last night, and he's in branding, kind of a field that traffics in images and language and associations, and he balked at this dichotomy, girly jobs, dirty diapers, as if we're going back to some separation of spheres, and aren't men supposed to get their hands dirty? Why, when it comes to poop, poopy diapers, everything started to change. I think he said something interesting to me, and I think this is increasingly typical of men our generation. I'm 41, he's a little bit older. He said, "My sense of manhood stems from my utility as a role model to my kids, not necessarily from my utility in the professional working world." I told him that I was going to talk today a little bit about our relationship as an instance of shared power at home, and he said, "Really? Do you think shared responsibility is the same as shared power?" And I thought about that, and then I realized, yeah, I really do. Because when you share the dirty diapers, and neither one of you is the de facto expert in dirty diaperage, neither one of us got a PhD in diaper changing, it frees us to have equal access, or at least opportunity, to pursue power in the outside world, right? So back to the outside world, the next slide. This is my current venture. SheWrites.com is the largest online community and virtual workplace for women who write. We have 11,000 members, all through word of mouth and counting. Members are emerging and established writers who are finding services and support and actionable advice on the site. Go to the next one. We have big plans. In the future, we plan to empower women writers further by connecting them to readers who can kind of interact with each other in a marketplace distinguished by quality content. We're a mission-driven company that really aligns with my dream of making change in the world. We believe that writing is world-changing for women. We believe that community and sharing power and knowledge has the power to sustain and nurture creativity itself. And we believe that we have everything to gain by sharing what we know and everything to lose if we withhold. So what we're invested in doing at She Writes is building a platform on which all of us can stand. Next slide, please. She Writes turned 1 this summer, and our members around the globe celebrated. The next one. A lot of them even made cakes. And the next one, my twins, too, also turn 1 this fall. And I think a lot about this. I think, will they have power to create work-life balance for themselves when they eventually grow up and get jobs and have families, as I hope they do, if that's what they want? Will they be able to improve upon the life that my partner and I are trying to create for ourselves? I certainly hope so. Because though this life is incredibly fulfilling, it's exhausting. And I wish something different for them. And I think I'll end on that note, this image of this boy and this girl who at this point in their lives know no limits. I find that incredibly exhilarating and slightly terrifying too.